Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Brainstorm, episode 12. Today we have Tasha Keeney on, as well as Andrew Kim. We are going to talk all things AI, both on a text basis and FSD basis, and then we will also talk about some drones. Andrew, let's start with you. Can you take us through character AI and this text-based entertainment medium that may be emerging?
Sure. So I guess since the launch of ChatGPT last winter, text-based, AI and all the experiences that have been built on top of these LLMs have been all the rage, right? And if you've been paying attention to this space, then you would be familiar with Character.ai, which essentially is a consumer-facing entertainment platform or maybe even marketplace that features all these different customizable AI chatbots. So as a user, you can go on and create your own chatbots, right, and customize them to your liking. Or you can find chatbots that mimic celebrities, for example, or fictional characters, or can also serve productive use cases, right, like coding assistant or a therapist, or even full on game experiences, right? Like a role playing game in a text format. And it's been gaining a lot of traction. I think um, desktop like unique visitors kind of averaged around 15 million last month. They also launched a mobile app this past spring, and I think that's around a couple million in DAUs. So it seems to have, generated at least early product market fit. And it's super exciting to see how this space will evolve.
So as this space evolves, I'm curious what your thoughts are on, where this goes. Does this have legs? And can you really point to this, entertainment medium? Is there something in the past that looked similar to this? Where have we seen this before? I think you brought up a great example on Friday when we had the brainstorm. So would love for you to talk about that, and then curious what your opinion is on, where this goes from here.
Sure, sure. So I think the last example that I gave with character AI includes, text-based adventure games, right? And we've definitely seen that before. If you think about 1980, Infocom released Zork, right, which was, I guess, arguably the first text-based like role-playing game that took place on the early personal computers, right, as the industry was shifting from mainframes to personal computers, right, with the rise of Apple and the like. And it was all the rage back then too, right? Got raving reviews on like Rolling Stone, for example, on Time, and the company Infocom hit around $10 million in revenue, and it peaked there in 1984. And what we saw there was like a big mixture of both like internal and I guess more macro related turbulences, right? One being, it was a recessionary time. I think in early 1985, we saw a wave of tech recessions, right, and layoffs. We also saw Infocom after kind of creating Zork 1, 2, and 3, and I think also Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by that point. Um, the company tried to pivot to enterprise software, like a database management software called, I think, Cornerstone, and that was happening amid the tech recession, so demand wasn't really there, and they were faced with a lot of losses, and they were eventually acquired by Activision, right? And I think finally, and probably most importantly, by 1985, we saw the launch of the NES by Nintendo. And by 96, I think Sega released its first console as well. Um, and this gave rise to the rise of computer graphics in the video game industry. And Infocom didn't really pivot, right? They kind of stuck uh, um, their place in text based. adventure games. And while faced with this overall disruption with like just audio visual kind of becoming a very core part of the video game experience, that kind of led to sorry, not Zork, Infocom shuttering operations by the end of the decade. And this is not to say that character AI is another Infocom, but I think it is really interesting to consider that the video game industry kind of went through this pivot from text based to audio and video based medium within like the span of a single decade, right? And we seem to be at that text portion today with generative AI. So what's not to say that the same thing's going to happen within AI, right? And um, I think given that we might like to think that a bigger opportunity and like for market sizing is going to be in this next wave of generative AI.
That leads me to a question that I'd love to, to tell our audience, Andrew, what is this for? Is it for gamers? Who uses this? Who should care about this?
Well, for character AI, I think it kind of targets a more niche audience who, care a lot about like celebrities, for example, or care about fictional characters. At least anecdotally, when I'm looking at memes, right, of screenshots of character.ai conversations, it seems to focus around those two specific categories. That being said, Snapchat, right, rolled out My AI, which is like a companion chatbot back also during the same time. I want to say earlier this year. And that kind of made the waves as well as like just a generally humorous experience. But I'm not so sure that these generative AI chatbots have kind of uh, reached like true product market fit in that the primary way that these chatbots are generating entertainment value is through like the meme value of it, right? In that people are trying to break it or trying to mess it up or trying to, make the chatbot say something that it's not supposed to, right? And then there's entertainment value there. And the primary entertainment value comes from cross posting, cross sharing onto different social media. So I think there's also that question of, thinking about these different like social platforms and like is the true value in like being in that platform itself or does the main entertainment value come from sharing it onto other incumbent platforms, right? um, and I don't think generative AI, well, this type of text-based AI has really like figured it out quite yet. And we're excited to see if like the introduction of audio or video can change that.
Gotcha. Well, definitely a space to watch, and we'll be keeping up with everything that you write and you're watching. You're using these platforms, Andrew. I assume. Have you tried Character AI yet? What are your personal thoughts?
I think it adheres to the character well for the first few minutes of like chatting. So I was talking with Waluigi, right, from the Super Mario Bros. You know, world, and it sounds like Waluigi for like the first couple of chats, but then I don't know, it starts to like lose the original character. So I do wonder if the team there is working on extending like making sure it adheres to the character for as long as possible. Sometimes it really depends on the individual chatbots, right? In that some of them like seem to be really realistic because you just have a lower barrier to mimicry, right? In that like um, me thinking about like Yoshi, for example, like you can't really think about Yoshi having a coherent conversation with you, right, from the Super Mario Brothers, but you can have a coherent conversation with Elon Musk, for example, right? So like there's two very different standards there in terms of like believability. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I definitely tried it. So, um, I wouldn't say I'm like an avid user of it yet.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Makes sense. And I think you brought up a interesting segue into our next topic here. You mentioned Elon Musk. We have Tasha on to talk about some new updates in the FSD world. And Andrew, thank you again for coming on. This was a great segment. We'll continue to watch and see how this evolves. But Tasha, let's switch gears here. Let's go to another end of the spectrum in the AI world. FSD, can you give us a breakdown of this recent weekend? It seems Elon Musk is testing out features live on his other company's platform, X.com. Curious what your thoughts are. And yeah, if you can break this down for us, it'd be great.
Yeah, so this Friday night, I believe, Elon went live on X.com, showing a video of him and well, he didn't show the person in the passenger seat, but it sounds a lot like the head of autopilot. His name is Ashok Elaswamy. So they were test driving version 12 of FSD, Tesla's full self driving software. Why do we care about watching this video? Well, it's not out with consumers yet. So this is, something that the average person has not seen yet. It was a roughly 45-minute video. He drives around Palo Alto. It's clear that the system isn't perfect, but what's different about this versus what's in consumer cars today is that this latest generation of FSD is much more. It's one. There's it's fewer. It's less generated by, let's say, manually coded or like rules based AI. It's more that the data itself is curated versus the code lines curated to what you want. So the way to think of this is, or the way it was described, is okay. The car's not explicitly coded to know what a stop sign is. It's just shown videos of people correctly responding to stop signs, which, by the way, no one does. It's like less than 1% of people actually come to 0 miles per hour at a stop sign. But they find those videos that are the correct driver behavior and then feed that to the system to train it what to do. So it learns, directly off video. It's closer to this video in, driving out system that Elon has always wanted to build.
Yeah, I saw a few tweets, and I think it was a quote by Elon saying, "This is all neural nets, nothing but nets."
Right, nothing
So
but
can
nuts.
you,
Yeah.
and is that kind of what you're hinting at here? This is not rules based. This is, as you mentioned, data in, and then you get, correct driving behavior out.
Exactly. So if you think of like the full autonomy stack, there's perception, planning, control. There's different pieces that add up to this puzzle of actually getting the car to drive itself. It used to be that this method, sort of the more like totally neural net based, like end to end deep learning type of method, was used in pieces of the stack, but not the full stack. So that's the major change. So again, it's more like video in, output out. It's probably closer to that ideal than they ever have been before. And what's impressive about it is that it seems like it works. I mean, there was one intervention point, and we should probably talk about that. But in the 45-minute drive, they attempt to go to the Google Maps address of Mark Zuckerberg's house and then drive away. They go to and from the Tesla headquarters, and it mostly works. And it's not even in shadow mode yet, meaning shadow mode is when they take a new software feature, they run it in the background of the consumer Tesla cars to see when would the output that the simulation is running differ from what the driver does. And then they use that to train the system. So they haven't even done that step yet. So the fact that there was one intervention, I think, is relatively impressive.
What was the intervention?
Yeah, so they're at a stop. They're at an intersection with multiple stoplights, and basically, it appears as if the car is assuming that the stoplight, that it's actually meant for the left-hand side lane to turn, is meant for the vehicle itself. So the car was going straight, not turning left, but it abided by the left-hand turn stoplight. So first of all, very minor, although I've seen a number of headlines about this. Elon, the car moves maybe a foot forward before Elon stops it. He recognizes it right away. So I saw some headlines that were like, it was going to run a red light. There's still someone behind the wheel training this thing. So I don't think it was close to endangering anyone. But yes, it's not perfect yet.
And then, well, this is a side note, but I was thinking about this the other day. Humans have interventions with each other all the time. As in, if you have a passenger, sometimes that passenger will, speak up and say, "Hey, you just missed the exit." Or so it's not, obviously humans aren't perfect, but it's interesting to think that we intervene with each other when we're driving in the same car pretty often. At least maybe maybe I'm just a bad driver because I feel like I get yelled at all the time for missing exits because I space out. But I think that is kind of an interesting. It was just a thought that popped into my head, like this actually happens to humans quite often.
Yes. And, Elon, so you're actually touching on something that was also in this video, which Elon says that the system technically could work without maps. So in other words, he said, well, you could just give it a GPS point and it might not know how to drive there. Like it might go down a dead end and then realize, oh, I'm at a dead end, and then turn back around to get to, the correct route to where you need to be. Um, so yeah, this, it's, I think the first version of autonomous cars that we will see, what is important? Well, are they safer than humans? We're already seeing that with autopilot. Our analysis suggests that a car with full self-driving enabled is already safer than a human-driven Tesla. It's certainly safer than the national average, but safer than a human-driven Tesla. And we use Tesla's, self-produced accident data to verify that. And then, can it drive in harsh weather scenarios? That's something people care about a lot. Well, humans aren't that good at driving in harsh weather. So I would guess that, the car is going to be cautious. Ashok mentioned in the video that it'll likely slow down in a rainstorm, similar to what we would do. But it's trained on human driving data, so it'll mostly try to mimic what we already do. And so, yeah, I don't think it'll be perfect. As you said, maybe it'll take a wrong turn sometimes. I think it'll likely be better than a human, and that's what matters. And then ultimately cheaper than a human too. So we think what's going to drive this market is that robo taxis will be could be actually cheaper than driving your personal car, but certainly cheaper than ride hail prices today. Or you could imagine ride hail has a nice produces a nice price ceiling for robo taxis to charge like a $4 per mile rate, but it could be as low as less than $1 at scale.
hmm And then my last question on this topic, the distinction between hardware 3 and hardware 4. I know there was some commentary from Elon about this. I think this drive was done on hardware 3,
It was.
and not hardware 4. And could you explain that distinction, what the hope is with hardware 4 and why this was done on hardware 3?
Yeah, so I actually think it was great that it was done on hardware 3, because there's been this question of, if I have a previous generation, so these hardwares are it's hardware 4 is Tesla's latest in-house produced chip. It's the compute that goes into the car itself, to be, think of it as like the brains of the autonomous car. So it's actually good to show it on the previous generation system, because that was a question. Okay, will autonomy first only work on hardware 4 vehicles? Will it work on hardware 3? If this is already running in a hardware 3 car, which you can think of as basically slightly less optimized, each incremental version of hardware that they come out with is going to be more optimized to what they think, will be the best solution to run full autonomy, right? So I think that showing that it works in a previous generation of hardware kind of gives everyone hope that, okay, yeah, when Tesla told me that my vehicle had the hardware necessary to become a robotaxi, it looks like seemingly that was true, assuming that they saw full autonomy, which we think that they will. So I think that's good, and we know that to really get into the weeds, that Tesla's moving more towards using things like diffusion models, which I've heard will work better on next generation hardware, but also be better to backwards integrate on hardware 3 because of the memory and compute power that it has. So all in all, I think that might have been kind of a sigh of relief to people watching.
Yeah, very exciting. Very exciting. I'm sad that Mark Zuckerberg wasn't home. Maybe we would have got a sneak peek of their upcoming fight. If
I know. Yeah, we're all waiting. Yeah, it looked. They took it off of Google Maps, so probably wasn't his
yeah.
house, but it's clearly on his mind.
Okay, our last topic, Tasha. Let's talk about drones and Walmart. Can you
Mhm.
explain this recent news? I feel like we're talking about the future. We're living in the future, full self-driving, drones, character-based AIs that you can speak to. But yeah, let's touch on drones.
Yeah, I've been writing about drones a lot in the ARK Invest newsletter, and what the most recent news is that Walmart has teamed up with Wing, which is Google's drone delivery project. So it's teamed up with Wing, a company called Flytrex, Drone Up, as well as Zipline for drone delivery. So this news is that Wing is going to there's it's basically like a pilot drone delivery. There are two super centers in Texas that Walmart in Dallas that you can get drone delivery within a 6 mile radius of that super center. This allows Walmart, to add to its existing number of stores that offer drone delivery. I think it's 36, and that's out of some roughly 5,000 locations for Walmart. They have a lot of stores in the U.S., as you can imagine. But I think it's a meaningful number of deliveries here. So Walmart has said that so far they've completed 10,000. Zipline, Wing as a whole have done in the hundreds of thousands of deliveries, but Walmart has certainly done a lot more than Amazon, which is rumored to have only done roughly 100 drone deliveries. And different solution. They're working with a number of outside parties to get it done. But I think it means, they're serious about this. And I'm certainly excited for it. I mean, the delivery bill when you order food in New York is embarrassing at this point. So, yeah, I'd certainly like to skip some of those fees with drone delivery.
Yeah, one thing that you said last week that stuck with me was dinner plate level accuracy when it comes to drone delivery. Is that what we should expect in these early days with this partnership, or is this, more experimental still? It'll be dropped, somewhere in your lawn, or what exactly are they delivering as well? Do you know?
Yeah. So, well, good question on what they're delivering. I'm not sure quite yet, but we've seen in the past, like hamburger helper was a super popular item to get in Arkansas and some of the locations that were testing it out. Dinner plate level accuracy is what Zipline claims they can do in a consumer's
Gotcha.
backyard. But Zipline and Wing have a similar system. A lot of them have a similar system where the drone kind of hovers and then lowers something down on a string. So with Zipline, their latest drone, actually a smaller drone comes out of a big mother drone, let's call it, and lowers down to then ultimately release the package. I think with Wing, it's something that kind of looks closer to like a McDonald's box that lowers down, and so it'll be curious to see how accurate is it versus competitors. I'm curious most about how Wing says, well, Walmart said in their release that this would be beyond line of sight. So if you care about drones, you care about the beyond line of sight requirements because those are what is really holding the industry back right now. The FAA allows for some pilots to exist, but they're often when you get the restriction removed, it's often it comes with caveats. So, and beyond line of sight means for everyone out there that, I as a pilot don't actually have to physically see the drone, or as an operator, a remote operator, I'd have to see the drone. But often it's the case now that it's technically beyond line of sight, but you might still have someone, say, on the ground that's an observer that has to be able to physically see it, which it's as silly as it sounds. Or, you're restricted to a very small area of operation. So I'm wondering, what's happening here. So yeah, it'll be curious to see, like, to your point, Nick, what is the consumer experience like? What does beyond line of sight actually mean in this case? And then who will Walmart ultimately go with? Because this is what they do. They partner with a lot of different technology companies, but if one of them is successful, you assume they're going to double down on that partner. So I think that Wing is a really interesting competitor. It's Zipline's number one competitor, but I think that Zipline is a formidable company to watch here in the space.
All right, so two companies to watch in this space, and then you have kind of the mega tech players all testing their level of competency in the drone delivery space, which is really interesting. To your point, Walmart is going at it with hey, let's test and see who can do this at the most probably cost efficient, but also at a with accuracy when it comes to deliveries. Do you think they'll ever, do you think they'll ever get into kind of the vertical integration strategy of maybe acquiring one of these, or just maybe in-housing some of this, or probably not?
That's a really good question. You can certainly imagine that if one of these companies was successful, which by the way isn't easy because it's not just getting the drone to do the delivery correctly, accurately. It's making sort of like this logistics song work of getting packages where they need to be on time when consumers expect them. That's really hard to do, even with non-autonomous systems. So you imagine that if a company does that well, it might be an attractive target for Walmart. I'd certainly be interested in these companies as standalone entities because Walmart's probably, it's the Goliath in this space. So having that partnership is really meaningful. But we see delivery of all sorts, so not just packages from Walmart, but food delivery as well. As I was talking, that's where I think we see all the exorbitant fees today. Zipline's partnered with Sweetgreen. I know Wing is working with Postmates. So, if it is a Kiva robot situation where Walmart takes it in house, as Amazon has done with some technologies,
Mhm.
that'd be interesting. But for now, I think it's smart that Walmart hasn't done that, right? Because it's not working out for Amazon for whatever reason. So, working with outside entities seems to have been the right move.
Yeah, interesting. All right, well, a lot to look forward to, a lot to keep our eye on: FSD, drones, character AI. Tasha, thank you for stepping in today, helping me out, co-hosting. Sam is on vacation, enjoying life. We wish him, nothing but the best. Happy vacation. But yeah, thank you for coming on, Tasha. This was awesome.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. That is our show. We'll see you next week, or potentially not. Actually, it is Labor Day next week. So we'll see. Maybe update everyone in the comment section on YouTube or Spotify or x.com. But we'll try to get a show out next week because innovation doesn't stop, and we're here to report on what we're seeing in the space. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.